All right, welcome back. Haven't been doing a video lately. I was a little bit sick, but now I'm back on track. Um, in this video, I'm going to update you on the current market situation. Pretty much it is end of end of June, and by the end of this quarter, they're gonna probably announce a recession. Because when you have 2 months of economic contraction in a row, in 2 quarters, you call it a recession. And this is pretty much happening right now. And a lot of interesting new actions in the market. And very interesting because for the first time, a lot of people that I follow, they really get active and they have an opinion. One guy I follow for I think 15 years is Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio is the biggest hedge fund manager on the planet. Has a closed fund already, but there was a time when you needed, I think, 100 million just to get your foot in the door. And when he speaks, the world or the investor world is listening. And pretty much what he said is he wrote a book. It's called The Changing World Order. Really good book, and it explains how the Chinese are going to overtake the U.S. in world power. And very fascinating book. And it's also describing the circles of markets, and pretty much we are there's a short-term cycle and there's a long-term cycle, and we are pretty much at the end of the long-term cycle, and this will definitely change the economic environment. And pretty much what he's saying is that we are very similar to the 1970s and the 1930s, and it's important to watch out for those moments in time. And so he had an interview last week with Charlie Rose that I highly recommend to watch. You just Google Charlie Rose, Ray Dalio. It's about an hour long, and they discuss how this world is about to change. And I think it's very important always to anticipate situations like this, right? If something like this is coming up, it's very important to do your homework, study a lot, and really understand what it's coming. Because people who are just waiting, then in winter comes, they freeze to death. And if you prepared, well, then you can get your ski equipment ready and you snowboard when everybody else is cold, right? And it's always very important to anticipate challenges or changes, because then you can make them to your advantage. And one very interesting thing is, as you probably know, we are going into a inflationary environment. I think we have record high inflation situations, and Ray Dalio is saying pretty much that we are going to have stagflation. And stagflation is when you have inflation. So inflation is pretty much happening when the central banks are printing money and there's too much money supply. And a stagflation is when you have the inflation combined with a contraction of the economy. And he's saying that this is coming, and this is like a very bad situation for human beings, because people that do not know that we are in an inflation, they get robbed their money unconsciously. Because if you have inflation right now, I think the official inflation is like 8 point something, but this is just the official. The unofficial. And why unofficial? Because the measurements they use to quantify this inflation is not the same measurements they used in the past. So the real inflation people say are more like 12 or 15%. 12 or 15%, which means if you use the rule of 72, with the rule of 72, you just take the interest rate you make or the interest rate you lose. In this case, you lose because it's inflation. It's your money or asset or wherever you hold your money in is getting worth less. So it's getting worth less. And if you use the rule of 72, you take the 72 and divide it, in this case, by 15, right? So let's say the inflation is round about 15, then 72 divided by 15 is approximately 5. Yes, and if you have 5, a factor of 5, that means every 5 years your money gets halved. Right? So let's say you have 100 grand in a bank account in US dollars. In 5 years, if you don't do anything with your money, well, the buying power of your 100 grand just cut in half within the 5 years. And after the 5 years, you really just have $50,000. And this is how the middle class and the people who don't know, they will get robbed. And lately, my mission is to end suffering through teaching investing and teaching in general. And lately, I kind of understood how important it is that people start to realize this, because the majority of people do not realize this. And there are different camps, I would say. And there's one camp of people that don't invest at all, and they're gonna get robbed and destroyed, right? There are a lot of people in Europe who have real estate net worth, and they're gonna get robbed as well. And then there are some people who do stocks, but they are believing in the ETF lie. I call it an ETF lie, because the ETF lie is pretty much telling you that no matter what you do, you just invest in an index and you're going to make an average of 10%. Those statistics are just wrong, because this is true if you just look on the last 20 or 30 years. But if you look over a longer horizon, like 100 years, you quickly realize that that those stats are simply wrong. And with the current environment, I can, in a following video, I can describe this if you like. Just write me in the comments. In the current environment, it's most likely that the market is not going to return you a 10% return just investing in an index. So what is there to do? And there's pretty much nothing to do other than to take responsibility for your financial education. And that simply means learning how to be able to create a return that it's higher than the inflation. And there's no real way around it. And right now the internet is full of people who try to explain to you how to get rich overnight with, I don't know, Bitcoin or NFTs and all the buzzwords. And these are not strategies. These are speculations, and speculation is not a good strategy to get rich. So I highly encourage you guys to learn how to invest, to make a return that is beating the inflation. And if you want, I'm willing to help. I have still spots available. I'm helping friends, I'm helping family, I'm helping people who are interested and who are committed. It's not easy, but it's simple, and there's a structure. And if you committed to it, it's not as hard as people think. And yeah, write me in the comments, contact me via email. I hope you liked this video. Maybe this opened your eyes. Maybe this message reached you right at the right point. If you're interested in this, please subscribe, share the video, share the message, and reach out to me. I'm happy to help, and thank you for your attention, and see you in the next one.